Ah, is every Monday going to be like this? Is every Monday going to be another misery Monday? My Canes, losers. My Dolphins, losers. Inter Miami, losers. Inter Milan, I'm also a huge supporter of theirs. Losers. Good thing I never keep this paper bag far away. I always have it ready to go because every single Monday seems to be a misery Monday. This is how we start the show on a Monday when all of the South Florida team. Well, you know what? To be fair, the Florida Panthers are actually winning. So we'll focus on the football and the football misery because the Florida Panthers are good. The Miami Heat start their regular season on Thursday. I believe they're going to be very good. So it's not all bad for South Florida sports fans, but it's bad for South Florida-based and even Florida-based period football fans because everybody had a terrible, terrible weekend. I got a lot to say about the Miami Dolphins. We're going to get into it. Alfredo Arteaga is going to join us at 12:10. We'll get his take on the disaster in London. 12:30, we're going to have somebody on who's going to help us win some money. In fact, we have the newest sponsor here on Donno Daily, the Daily Stakes. Nick from the Daily Stakes is going to join us at 12:30. 12:50, I'm actually going to be able to smile for the end of the show because our good pal Allana Tachauer is going to talk some Miami Heat with us as she always does on Mondays. So that always brings some sunshine to my Monday when oftentimes the reaction Mondays have been pretty miserable lately. But I want to remind you, Donno Daily, we are brought to you as always. We are served by the Quarterdeck Seafood Bar and Neighborhood Grill. My friends, make the Quarterdeck your spot to watch every college football Saturday and NFL Sunday. Even if your teams are taking L's, you can wash down some of that misery with their drink specials. Saturdays and Sundays during football season at every Quarterdeck location, you can get the 5 for $15 ice-cold buckets of the Heineken family of beers, High Noon Hard Seltzer. Mix and match those to your heart's content. They also have 2-for-1 happy hour that is all day, every day. I love the 2-for-1 margaritas at the Quarterdeck. The food is so good, guys. The seafood is fresh and delicious. The sandwiches and burgers are awesome. The baby back ribs are so tender and so flavorful. They are so good. We're going to have a watch party for the Miami Heat, who actually are a winning franchise. At least I hope they are this season. We're going to have a Miami Heat watch party at the Quarterdeck in Sawgrass near the BB&T Center, November 2nd. The Heat are on the road that night to take on the Dallas Mavericks, so make sure you join us for that. If you want to peep the Quarterdeck's menu online before you go, or find the location nearest to you, they've got locations all over Broward County, go to their website, quarterdeckrestaurants.com. The Quarterdeck, come for the food, stay for the fun. And we are brought to you by the official sports book of Donno Daily. I did win some money over the weekend. I lost a bet on the Dolphins. I mushed them, if you want to say that. But I did go 3 for 3 on my UFC picks on Saturday night. So I came out in the plus on Saturday, and I owe that to America's favorite sports book and the official sports book of Donno Daily. That is BetUS.com. Guys, the 3-decade leader. They are in their 27th NFL season. If your Dolphins are going to take L's, you might as well take W's when you're betting on games. Join now. And if you use our code 5RSN125, type that code in at checkout, you can get a 125% sign-up bonus or 200% if you deposit with crypto. Use our promo code 5RSN125 and bet sports, casino, horses, pop culture, and more at BetUS.com. You bet, you win, you get paid. BetUS.com. Time to vent. I really did not expect what I saw yesterday in London. I didn't expect the Dolphins to lose that game. I didn't expect them to lose to that team. I thought the Jacksonville Jaguars would be our slump buster, coming in on 4 straight losses. I thought the Jaguars would be the Dolphins slump buster. It turns out the Dolphins were their slump buster. We are the slump buster. If you can't spot the sucker at the table, you're probably the sucker. The Jaguars came into that game yesterday. They took a little hop across the pond. They came in on a 20-game losing streak going back to the early part of last season. 20-game losing streak. That was the second longest skid in NFL history. Only the Tampa Bay Buccaneers of the 1970s had lost more consecutive games than the Jacksonville Jaguars. We were their slump buster. The Miami Dolphins flew 4,426 miles to London to lose to an embarrassing franchise. Maybe we're becoming an embarrassing franchise. New continent, same results on the field. Now, you can spread the blame around to a lot of places when you lose to a terrible team like the Miami Dolphins did yesterday. But my primary source of blame goes to the coaching. Poor time management, clock management throughout the game, piss poor play calling. The one that really gets to me. It's the one that gets to most of us, okay? 4th and 1, late, game on the line. You run the football out of the shotgun with Malcolm Brown. You don't pick it up. Really? You run the football out of the shotgun. Your quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa, who was back off the injured reserve, had actually been playing pretty well in that game, really well in that game, and you take it out of his hands on 4th and 1 and call an awful play like that when you can't run the ball to save your life. Anyway, George Godsey, or whichever of the 2.5 offensive coordinators, whether it was Godsey, Studesville, Charlie Fry, whoever called that play, needs to be held accountable. Should not have even been allowed on the team plane back from London to Miami. Your head coach, Brian Flores, who we used to love, I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened to Flo. The guy can't coach anymore. He needs to be held accountable. Now, you can make some excuses, and one of our commenters earlier on, I think it was Big Dan 305 maybe, said, I'd love to hear the excuses after this one. You're not going to get them from me. I'm not going to give you any excuses. There are plenty of excuses out there. And yeah, I know that Byron Jones and Xavier Howard were both out, but I don't care. That defense was bad even without them, or even with them, I should say, in previous weeks. They were bad without them yesterday against the worst team in the National Football League. Now, I'm also not going to primarily put the blame on officiating, even if you did get hosed on what should have been a muffed punt. It definitely went off the finger. I reviewed the film like the Zapruder film. It did touch Agnew's finger. They missed it. You noticed how, as I start to run down my list of grievances and complaints here, and by the way, hello to everyone in the chat. I'll get to you guys. I got a head full of steam, and I need to hit the hole here. Unlike Malcolm Brown, I need to hit the hole and actually break through and pick up this first down here. You notice how I've waited this long, aside from one little mention, to talk about the quarterbacking. And I waited this long to talk about quarterbacking because, okay, Tua Tagovailoa is not why you lost this game. So some of you need to calm down with that, because I see some of that blame being thrown around by lazy Dolphin fans on Twitter, like, oh, Tua comes back and we lose to the Jaguars. Oh, my God. Listen, okay, Tua played pretty well in the game. He's also not immune to criticism. So I didn't want to go first on Tua because I don't want you guys to think that I'm saying Tua is the reason why you lost that game. He's not. He wasn't perfect. That interception that he threw was really bad. And the timing of it couldn't have been worse because that was right after you picked up the strip sack turnover, and then you go right out there. You give it immediately back to Jacksonville on a badly thrown INT. That was bad. Tua, he made some questionable decisions. The one that really annoyed me was it was in the second quarter on 3rd and 2. He got out of the pocket and he would have easily picked up the first down on his feet, but decided to throw the football and threw it incomplete. Now you kind of forget about that play because the Dolphins did convert on the 4th down after that. So like I said, Tagovailoa played well overall. So this is not the guy we need to direct our primary complaints to, but I will say, because I get a little bit annoyed with both sides, right? I get annoyed with the blind Tua haters who are just going to come out and rip the kid no matter what the circumstance. Like, oh, my God, you lost to the Jaguars. You need to trade Tua like tomorrow, and you got to bring in Deshaun Watson. Listen, you can only blame Tua so much for that. It wasn't Tua's fault. But I also get annoyed with some of the people on the other side of the fence there who are propping up his 329 yards and the way he looked good against the Jacksonville defense and holding that up as some kind of a trophy, like, yep, he's the franchise guy. We got our answer at quarterback. Tua's back. We're all going to be fine. Listen, you had a good game, but 329 passing yards against the second worst passing defense in the NFL. Only WFT, only Washington Football Team is worse against the pass than the Jacksonville Jaguars. All I'm saying is that performance by Tua, I'm happy. I'm glad he's back. I'm glad he played pretty well in the game. But that doesn't really move the needle for me one way or the other into deciding whether he's a franchise quarterback. The jury is still out on that one. So, yeah, I see the Tua haters saying he's the reason Miami lost the game. That's ridiculous. But for the Tua stans to use that game as some sort of a trophy to say, oh, this is our franchise quarterback, it's a little bit ridiculous. By the way, list of grievances here. I'm also still really mad at the general manager, even madder at the general manager and Chris Grier. Myles Gaskin, unfortunately for us, was bad yesterday. He regressed, from the Tampa Bay game. Dropped some passes. The running game produced only 77 team yards. That's actually pretty high for the Miami Dolphins, which is kind of sad. Chris Grier is the guy, among many other draft mistakes he's made in recent years. He avoids running backs in the first the first 2 days, not 2 rounds, the first 2 days of the draft. He avoids running backs as if they all have the plague until the 7th round. All right, now let's get a guy. So it's really, you don't think we could have used an actual 3-down back yesterday and all season long? I can't remember which day it was. I think it was Monday or Tuesday last week. We had an episode titled that was coming off of whatever the hell the loss was before this one, Indianapolis. They all start to run together. When you lose 5 games in a row, I can't tell my face from my ass. I can't remember which game was what game was when, but it was after the loss before this one. We had an episode titled, "Is this rock bottom for the Miami Dolphins?" The answer was no, that wasn't rock bottom. I hope this is rock bottom. I hope going to London and embarrassing yourselves in front of a bunch of snobby Europeans at a pretty beautiful stadium there, Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, going out there and losing to the Jacksonville freaking Jaguars, who had gone 20 straight games without a win. I hope now this is rock bottom, and I hope people are held accountable for that, because that was inexcusable. To lose that game yesterday was inexcusable. I don't care how many players you were missing, how many wide receivers you were missing, Will Fuller and Devontae Parker. These guys are always hurt. I don't care that you were without your top 2 corners. You still could have and should have won that stupid football game. All right, let's bring on our first guest of the day. I love this guy. He's going to help us bring some perspective. He might even talk me off the ledge a little bit, or he might push me completely off the ledge. I don't know which. We'll find out. Alfredo Arteaga from 3 Yards Per Carry is with us. Alfredo, thank you so much for joining the show today. Who do you throw most of the blame to for yesterday? You go into London, you lose to the Jaguars. I'm sure there's a pie chart where we can assign blame to a bunch of different people, but who is first on the accountability list for you?
Oh, it has to be the coach. It has to be Brian Flores. It has to be his coaching staff, and whatever their game plans were for that game, or how they plan to attack Trevor Lawrence. There was a noticeable change in that game, and there's a noticeable change in this team when they get a little bit desperate. When this team, when they're ahead, they seem to play one way, and when they're behind, they seem to play another. I suggest they should play as if they're always behind, because playing the way that they play while ahead is what's cost them 3 games this year. Okay? And had they won just 2 of those 3 games, we wouldn't be having this discussion, and I wouldn't be on your show telling you that the season is essentially over. Yeah. And the rest of the year is about evaluation. So that's on the coaches. Having this bipolar approach to defense and offense, it's enough already. And especially on defense, all game they played a lot of passive coverage, and even the announcers were noticing it. Like, this is not the way the Dolphins play, and that's understandable. You have Nick Needham and you have Noah Benogany out there. You don't have Byron Jones and Xavier Howard, right?
Yeah.
But what happened when they got a little bit nervous? They started sending the house after Trevor Lawrence, and they started getting 3 and outs, and they got a turnover out of it. So all of a sudden, when you start playing more to your personality, to the personality you built here for the better part of 3 seasons, it starts working out for you. But what you drew up for 5 days leading up to this game on a Sunday morning in London, it just didn't work out. So that tells you all you really need to know. I don't know what they're doing Monday through Friday, but evidently none of it works.
What was your take on the 4th and 1 call to hand it off out of the shotgun? Because I think a lot of people, myself included, were upset that your quarterback was doing really well up to that point, and you take it out of his hands to run that play. And listen, we can play the results. The play didn't work. Maybe if it had worked, no one would have complained. But I thought that call was extremely shaky, and whichever one of our 25 OCs was responsible for that needs to be held accountable for it.
Yeah, this is the second game where something very similar like that happens. Do you remember the Raider game when they ran the little shovel pass to Gesicki earlier in the game on a 3rd and 1 or a 3rd and 2, or what was it, like a 4th and 2, and they got it? And then they ran it again in overtime and it got stopped.
Yeah.
Well, in this game, they did the exact same thing. The only thing, they ran it to the different side. They ran it. That's like a read option. Two is supposed to read the backside backer. If the backside backer has contain, then he hands it off. If the backside backer crashes down, then he could keep it and just run around end to get the first down. In that, I believe it was was it the first half when they ran the same exact play with Malcolm Brown. Malcolm Brown got it on 4th and 1. But they ran it this time. They ran it the opposite way, this time behind Robert Hunt. They had the play completely scouted. If you watch the play again, when Tua has the ball in Malcolm Brown's belly, he peeks, and the end is just standing there staring at him like, okay, you're going to keep it now, and you're going to try to run past me, and I have you. So Tua had to hand it off, and then it got stuffed. So they had that play very well scouted. So maybe don't run the same play twice in a row on 4th and 1.
And it's probably not a good sign when you're getting out-coached by Urban Meyer with the success or lack thereof he's had so far in his NFL career. They may have saved his job, at least temporarily, yesterday, because if the Jaguars had gotten embarrassed, I don't know if he is even allowed on the same flight home. So Urban owes Flores a thank you card, I think.
Oh, absolutely. He undressed Brian Flores. Let's be fair about it. Okay. At the end of the game, they're playing Josh Boyer and Brian Flores. I would have paid money to have a microphone right there to hear what Josh Boyer is telling Brian Flores. I don't know if you watched that at the end, but Brian Flores angrily dismissed something Josh Boyer was trying to tell him. I'm pretty certain Josh Boyer wasn't probably telling him hey, a touchdown beats us here, boss. You know what I mean? So, I don't have any information on this, but I'm going to go ahead and speculate that maybe Josh Boyer was telling him there's 5 seconds left in the game, boss. They get this first down, we got problems. So maybe we want to defend this first down marker here. Who knows what happened? But yeah, that sequence at the end of the game was vomit inducing, really.
I like something you said earlier. I mean, I don't like it, but I agree with it, that you said that, the rest of the season is basically about evaluation now. And it's not to say that the Dolphins are mathematically eliminated from the playoffs. They're not. They could probably only afford to lose up to 2 games the rest of the way if they even want a prayer of a chance of making it. But I think you're right that we really need to focus on evaluation the rest of the way. Now, I put up a poll question on Twitter, Alfredo, a little bit before the show. Maybe Sean can pull it up for me. Hopefully we can get more votes on this. Only 103 votes so far. I need more passion from the Dolphin fan. Do the Dolphins need another rebuild? Blow it up, stay the course, which is expectedly getting very few votes, or make strategic changes? Now, I'm a little bit vague there because maybe some people would have different definitions of what blowing it up would really mean. Because obviously 3 years ago, when they fired Gase and then just took a wrecking ball to the roster, that was a real blow. I don't know if they would ever do anything that drastic again. But how drastic does Stephen Ross need to be here, Alfredo? Because, aside from probably needing a new GM and potentially a new head coach in the near future, what's your take on this roster? Do you think they have enough foundational pieces, or do severe changes through, trades and maybe not renewing certain players, does that need to be something they think about this offseason?
I think the core is probably good here, and they have some good young players. But I think that there's going to be a purge coming up, no matter what, no matter who's in charge. And the purge is going to be around the edges and on the fringe players, the support players. And on the offensive line, there could be massive changes. But I also think that maybe there should be some big changes at the wide receiver position. I have to remind fans also, these players don't put themselves on IR, and they don't make themselves inactive. The coach does that. So we don't know enough about what happened with Devontae Parker and Preston Williams and Xavier Howard and Byron Jones. But usually when you see one of these guys play the week prior and they look fine and they finish the game, the following week, it has to be something that either happened in practice, which they usually report on that day, or it's something that got aggravated. But when it's the same injury week after week, and then they just decide, okay, he's not playing this week, usually that's a coach's decision. So no matter what, there's nothing to rebuild here. So the people say, oh, they need to rebuild. Rebuild what? All you're going to end up doing is replace good players with good players.
That's a good point.
A rebuild suggests nothing here is good. Just build everything from the ground up. That's not what this team needs. This team needs a purge around the edges, a change of philosophy, and some serious work on at least a couple of units. And I'm thinking offensive line and wide receiver unit are probably the top two.
Yeah, and listen, I think it's fair to expect that there may be a new GM, within the next calendar year, at least before next season. Ethan Skolnick had speculated on the 5 Reasons Sports Twitter account that he would expect that Stephen Ross would probably be the type to promote from within. Of course, he's done that before. The current GM was promoted over a long period of time from within. He lists Marvin Allen as being a potential name to be the next GM. Is that an approach you think would make sense to keep promoting from within, or is there somebody from way on the outside you say, you know what, we need to get a fresh perspective in here, not someone who's been part of this unit for years?
Well, there has to be a reason why they paid Marvin Allen not to take a job somewhere, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The day he was hired, I was like, this doesn't make any sense. Like this is the kind of guy you hire if you're firing Chris Grier, right?
Right.
This is the guy that had a very good hand in building the championship roster of the Kansas City Chiefs. Okay, so they bring Marvin Allen in, and they pay him an exorbitant amount of money for an assistant GM. And then they just install him there. And if you watch him on game days, he's really just glad-handing with a bunch of scouts and talking to the media and talking to other scouts from other teams and the advanced scouts. He's not really doing a lot of the GM stuff that you would see on a game day, talking to the owner, talking to coaches. So I think it makes perfect sense, to be honest.
Okay.
Because why would you do it in the first place? If you don't promote Marvin Allen, this is just another thing. This is just that you're essentially a liar when you sit down with one of these guys, either be it a coach or an executive, because it's obvious to me that Marvin Allen wouldn't be here unless you paid him the money you paid him to take a lesser position. So I think it's bad either way, but I think it's better if you actually do promote Marvin Allen, because at least you're keeping your word. And he is a guy that is touted around the league and league circles, they're fans of Marvin Allen. Like, he would get a job. Dolphins fired him tomorrow, he would be on another staff somewhere immediately.
That makes sense. What about head coach? And obviously, I certainly can't guarantee that Flo loses the job. They might just end up kind of using GM as the scapegoat and staying the course with Flores. I don't know. But if Flo were to be let go, which is not that far-fetched of a thing to wonder, is there anybody, maybe a head coach who could potentially be available, or even an assistant from another team that the Dolphins could snatch, where you think, yeah, I think this guy deserves a shot?
Well, what has Stephen Ross not done, right? He's tried pretty much everything, right?
He has.
And he's gone out and he's talked to the big head coach, the head coach with the big reputation, and Jim Harbaugh. He's never really gone after a superstar college coach, right?
That's true. Yeah.
So maybe a Lincoln Riley is the splash that he would probably go after. But I think Flores has the rest of the year. Like, if this is an absolute disaster year, and I'm talking about they win 4 games, okay, or something like that, then I think everything is on the table. And I think Ross might do something more drastic. So, what would be different? And what would be different would be something like that, going out and getting a big college name like a Lincoln Riley, or maybe even hiring a guy who's a good administrator in Doug Peterson. Something like that.
And I like these suggestions, especially Lincoln Riley. It's funny because a couple people have been tweeting me today about coaches, and a couple of the names that people have brought up are like, I would take these guys on the Canes, not the Dolphins. And I think you're a Canes fan as well. Like, somebody tweeted me about Lane Kiffin. I wouldn't be that excited about Kiffin to the Dolphins, but I'd be very excited about Kiffin to the University of Miami. And even Coach O, Ed Orgeron, bring all his girlfriends down to Coral Gables. It's fine. Bring their kids, the girlfriends. Go have some nice nights. Yeah.
Yeah, Lane Kiffin as an OC would have made a lot of sense. The thing is, I don't know if I buy that Brian Flores is the kind that works well with others. I'm still suspicious about what happened with Jim Caldwell. You know, the guy was hired one day, and like 3 days later, he's like, "Oh, you know what? I don't feel too good," and he just leaves. So I don't know. Maybe Brian Flores is just a difficult guy to work for. So I don't even know if that Lane Kiffin thing would work because, in my opinion, the way it would work was if you brought in a big OC name like a Lane Kiffin, you told him, guess what? Half the building is yours. You're the offense. I will never talk to you about the offense. Just leave me alone with the defense. Me and Josh Boyer will be over here with the defense. You're in charge of the offense and the entire offensive staff. You bring in your own guys. I don't think Brian Flores is the type. I think Brian Flores wants to micromanage anything, and he wants to have his fingers in every single unit.
He does.
And maybe that's why you've had 5,000 offensive coordinators so far.
and out of those 5,000, 4,000 of them have been this season alone, all at the same time. I like this comment. Chris Adams says, I feel like my life as a Dolphins fan is a slow plane crash into a slow train wreck, something like that. But it's 35 years old, about to be 36. It's been really sad. I mean, I'm 37, so I'm right there with you. I mean, I'm old enough to remember a lot of Marino, but obviously no Super Bowl wins because I was born after 72 and 73. So it's just been this steady downward decline for the last
I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that analogy because if it was a slow plane crash into a train wreck, you'd be dead and it would be over, right? So, no, it's been they're in the wilderness for 20 years. It happens to all the best franchises.
Yeah.
Happened to the Bears, happened to the Packers. And I'm talking about, when people say 20 years, I'm like, yes, 20 years. Yeah. Okay. Cowboys were absolutely god-awful until a couple of years ago for about almost 20 years.
Yeah.
Okay. You know what all those, you know what they have in common, right? Parcells had a hand in all of them, right?
That's a good point.
You know? So, they're in the wilderness, and to get out of it, it's going to take a quarterback. But it's also going to take not mismanaging what you have, okay? There were some promising things on Sunday. They just got to build on it, and they got to realize what the season is about going forward. It's evaluation, and, there's nothing to build on for this year, but there is for next year, and they can start there.
Well, and I want to throw this at you real quick from Devin Jordan. And this, to me, I take this as not even necessarily as buyers because they could be sellers as well. Do you see any major trades before the deadline? I mean, you think about pieces you have as a bad team. Maybe you decide let's move on from Mike Gesicki before he moves on from us. Let's break up with him before he breaks up with us. Maybe you feel like, hey, we can turn Xavier Howard into something. Do you see either way? I mean, obviously, the idea of bringing in Deshaun Watson has been floated around. Unfortunately, this team is more than just a quarterback away. So do you see the Dolphins either as buyers or sellers maybe trying to do something pretty big at the deadline?
Well, on Mike Gesicki, if they just let him walk, they're going to get a pretty good compensatory pick, right?
That's a good point.
But they should not be thinking about letting Mike Gesicki go. They should be thinking about resigning him and extending him going forward, whatever it costs. I don't care what it costs. He's part of the solution. He's one of the guys that you can count on. He actually shows up to play and plays well, even in the limited snaps that they seem to get him. Okay? So, that's a guy that they should not be selling on. They should be extending. As far as buying, if they could find a long-term piece in the right age zone, 26 to 30, that could be here for a couple of years, then absolutely. And obviously, I'm talking about the offensive line. As far as selling, maybe you start your purge a little earlier and you start getting rid of some of those older guys. I'm talking about the Devontae Parkers.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe an Xavier Howard, maybe a Byron Jones. Maybe you pick between the two, okay? And you give Needham the job full-time going, into next year. So, there's a lot of ways it can go. And I'm really interested to see which way they go because the offseason essentially already started. And November 2nd is the deadline. That's the first important date of the offseason, really.
Before I let you run, let us know where everybody can find you, Alf_Artiaga on Twitter. But what about 3 yards per carry? You guys got an episode dropping today, right?
Yeah, there's an episode tonight. There'll be another one on Wednesday. You could see all our stuff at the number 3 yards per carry on Twitter, and you can get our podcast anywhere you get your podcasts.
Love it. Well, great job, man. I'll certainly be listening when that episode drops tonight because there's something about it's like therapy, man. When the team struggles and we can all kind of talk it out, it helps me. Like it actually helps me to listen and talk about it more than it does just to ignore it because ignoring it just doesn't work for me. So I appreciate what you guys are doing there. You do a great job.
Thank you for having me, Don.
Awesome job there by Alfredo Arteaga. And by the way, let me remind everyone, because I've seen some people on social media say, hey, look how bad the Dolphins are. Thank goodness the draft pick's going to be high. The Philadelphia Eagles own the Dolphins' first-round pick. So you're only helping the Eagles. You're not helping yourselves right now. Guys, I want to welcome in the newest member of the Donno Daily family here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. We are proudly brought to you by the Daily Stakes. I love this because even when my teams let me down, at least my bets can make up for that, man. The Daily Stakes will change the way you bet on sports. They empower you with the same analytics used by both the sharps and the sports books. Daily Stakes founders, we're going to talk to Nick in a couple minutes here. The Daily Stakes founders, Nick and Dylan, both great guys. They are massive sports fans, as you would imagine, okay? Yes, but they also come from professional backgrounds in financial modeling, corporate consulting, and data analytics. So not only are they a lot smarter than I am when it comes to the numbers, but they understand all aspects of the sports betting industry inside and out, from the eye test, which is my kind of preferred method, to also the analytics, which I lean on people like them for, the trends, and they also help you harness this knowledge to give you the edge that you need to win, guys. They give you the actionable information and data-driven analysis you need in order to use the data the pros use to help you win your bets consistently. They offer comprehensive coverage of all the major sports leagues, including the NFL, NBA, thank God the NBA's back, NHL, which is already back, Major League Baseball, and the UFC. Their track record is proven and transparent. You can follow them so you know exactly what's going on. And members, guys, you want to join this service and tell them Donno sent you. We're going to have a code operational this week, which is FIVE. Our code is 5. You can get 20% off. Members unlock exclusive perks like weekly giveaways and contests. You can become a member today of the Daily Stakes. You can unlock an all sports trial for 7 days for just 99 cents. You can see what it's all about. The sports league of your choice, you can unlock one sport, one league like the NFL or NBA for just $14.99 a month, or the best deal of all of them, which is the all sports plan for just $29.99 per month. Play smarter and bet smarter with the Daily Stakes. Sign up at thedailystakes.com. And we are proud to welcome in one of the founders from the Daily Stakes. Nick is with us now. Nick, good afternoon. And you're up there north of the border in Canada. How cold is it up there right now, bro?
It's getting pretty cold out here. That's why I'm wearing a hoodie.
Over the weekend here in Florida, it dipped like below 85 degrees. Like I think it was like in the high 60s when I woke up on a couple mornings ago, and we're like, "Oh my God, it's so nice down here. It's so cold up here." That's become par for the course. So you need the hoodie. I don't need the hoodie just yet, but. Listen, man, we got a lot to get into because I know you're big in the NBA, so I want to get some preview content on the National Basketball Association viewing, including some Miami Heat stuff. Before we get to that, we do have Monday Night Football tonight, and I mentioned the Daily Stakes. It arms their clients with the analytics and the knowledge that they need to get an edge on the sports books. The Buffalo Bills tonight, and it's unfortunate they're in the same division as my beloved Miami Dolphins because they're really good. They're 6.5-point favorites on the road in Tennessee. The over-under is 53.5. Is there anything you and Dylan like in this game tonight?
First off, just like to say thank you, Alex, for having me on the network. Really glad to be here.
My
really
pleasure.
Glad to share my experience. So for the Monday Night Football game, let's just get right into it. We got the Bills versus the Titans. We at the Daily Stakes have kind of built our own model projection with a confidence rating, where we're for tonight's game actually, we're leaning with the Bills to cover the spread. They're entering this matchup with a 4-1 record, and just based on the numbers that they put up, they're probably one of the best teams offensively, and the margins of victories from teams like they blanked other teams. I believe one of their games they won 40-0, and they're going up against the Titans, and the Titans are not doing very good on defense. And in my personal opinion, they probably rank bottom 5 in defense. And you're going up against Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. So good luck to all Titans fans.
Yeah, and the fantasy players who have Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, I think, are going to be feasting tonight. I think I'm going up against Allen in one of my leagues, and I've already officially lost the game, so this is only going to add insult to injury for me. You've been following the NBA and tracking the NBA at a high level with the daily stakes and in your personal life for a long time. There is so much excitement down here, Nick, because, listen, a lot of the people that I talk to, there are exceptions to this rule. We talk to people all over the world who don't share all of my allegiances, but so many of the people we talk to are Dolphins fans, Miami Hurricanes fans, a lot of Inter Miami fans, the soccer fans down here. Everybody's completely miserable right now. The Florida Panthers are doing well, but the Miami Heat get started this coming Thursday. Tough one to start out with. They host the Milwaukee Bucks. But before we get into the nitty-gritty from that game, let's talk about the season to come, because I think the Heat made a gigantic addition in Kyle Lowry, a couple of other nice splashes as well. I like PJ Tucker coming in. There's a couple of good players kind of coming up through the G League, like Omer Yurtseven and Max Strus, who we saw a little bit of last season. So I think there's some really positive stuff. What is your expectation for the Miami Heat this coming year?
I think the Miami Heat, just based off their offseason trades, and given what everybody knew about their lineup last year and what they did in the run at the bubble, I honestly, personally think that they're going to be a top 4 team in the Eastern Conference. A lot of people are very bearish or low on the Heat, just given their performance last year, and that's a result of a good amount of factors, I would say. I mean, they made it to the bubble. They played against the Lakers in the finals. And then the kind of vacation time that they had between the offseason all the way to the beginning of the new season was very short compared to most teams, caused them to have a lot of injuries. And you just saw it in their gameplay. They were tired, they were sluggish. And without Jimmy Butler's efforts, and in most games where he was injured, they really, really struggled to put up points. But with kind of the offseason that they had, bringing in Kyle Lowry, bringing in Markieff Morris, who's a three-pointer, and then PJ Tucker, the defensive pickup that the Milwaukee Bucks picked up for them to secure their championship last year. I mean, it doesn't get better than that. On paper, the Miami Heat are stacked, I would say. You got Duncan Robinson, you got Tyler Hero, and you even have the dark horse Victor Oladipo.
Yeah.
I haven't been too fond on his career, but when you have a guy like that coming in on the second unit, capable of what he's doing, and coming off the bench, I think it's scary for most teams in the East.
By the way, I knew I was going to see some of this on the chat when you came on, because every time I talk sports betting, I can't escape this. A few of my viewers, they swear that I am a mush. Like, you see David there, stop mentioning the Florida Panthers because they're off to a nice start. He doesn't want me to ruin it. Brooklyn Rob, I think, is the one who started this trend. He says, Nick, the mush needs your help. He is the maximum mush. I thought there was no way I could mush the Miami Dolphins yesterday, and I did. It's a real problem. Now, let me ask you, as a guy who, you have a background in mathematics, and, you understand analytics, and that helps shape your opinion in the sports betting landscape. Do you agree? Do you believe in any sort of superstition? Like, do you ever have certain rituals when you're watching a game? Are you silly like I do, where sometimes I'll change rooms thinking that's helping? Or do you think all of that is nonsense?
I do believe it in a certain respect, I would say. I mean, growing up, before we kind of ventured into this business, I was just making predictions and stuff with my friends, just based on gut feeling and what I knew about the sport. And every time I would personally bet on a game, that bet would lose. But every time I would suggest a bet and I wouldn't bet on the game, that bet would win. So
that's true.
That's the superstition that I'm going with, because it didn't make any sense to me. Sometimes I throw out these wild card parlays and they would all cash, 4 or 5 teamer. But then when I'll take a money line straight out winner on almost a pick'em line, you end up losing by a blowout, like of 10 to 20 points. So that's my superstition when it comes to sports betting, especially in the NBA.
Something else I'm curious about with sports betting is sometimes people can be a little bit too reactionary, right? Like if and obviously this can happen, especially in a sport like the NBA where you're playing 3 or 4 times a week. Sometimes you're going to get blown out by 20 on a Tuesday night. You play again on Thursday and you're blowing a team out by 20 points. Do you ever feel like you can find edges with some of the lines because people overreact to one performance, and then 2 or 3 days later you think, you know what, the public is so down on this team, I feel like I'm getting some great value here on them?
Yeah, Definitely. I mean, when teams go out, because it's obviously normal, right? In sports, teams have their good streaks and they have cold streaks. And in most cases, one example I take it from last season, I think it was the Brooklyn Nets versus the Miami Heat, and the Nets came in at -4, I believe, and everyone was low on the Heat. The Heat were not playing well. Butler was out, and usually in normal circumstances, at teams at full strength, the Heat would have probably been a pick'em line. It would have been a +1 spread or a -1 spread. And the public, this was a 3 p.m. game on a Sunday as well. Public was heavily favored on the Nets to win. And then that game, Kevin Durant got injured in the first 15 seconds. And because of that, obviously, Miami Heat ended up winning the game straight out. So I do believe a lot of people are based it on past historics, and that affects their betting behavior. Where in most cases, a recommendation from a personal opinion is to just figure out who your teams are, who you like to bet, and then stay the course. But watch the performance and kind of identify key metrics that allow you to differentiate between the matchups that they're going up against.
Now, you mentioned Miami Heat is more than likely a top 4 team in the East, and I certainly agree. The East is really interesting this year because some of the teams who are expected to do really well have some turmoil and drama. Like you were just talking about the Brooklyn Nets, and they had enough drama last year, and then this year they've got this whole Kyrie Irving vaccination fiasco. How bullish or bearish are you on the Brooklyn Nets heading into this year? And even without him, they're probably still one of the top 2 teams in the East. But let's be real. If they play the year without Kyrie Irving, how does that affect your outlook?
For the Brooklyn Nets, I'm still going to be bullish on them. I believe they're still going to be a top 3 team in the Eastern Conference. And that's a result of kind of Kevin Durant, James Harden. I mean, everyone saw on social media, James Harden said he's fully healthy. His injuries are no longer a problem. And to watch this man play at full strength, everyone's seen what he was capable to do with the Houston Rockets with less help. And just adding Kevin Durant to that mix, you have Joe Harris on the side. They have a rejuvenated Blake Griffin, LaMarcus Aldridge. They brought in Patty Mills. This guy showed up at the Olympics for Australia, and then I just think they're gonna do super well, top 3 at least. But if they had Kyrie Irving, they'd probably be first in the conference. Without Irving, you're gonna have Harden come probably to step into the starting spot instead of running the second unit like he did at the beginning of the season last year. And I think they're gonna do well.
What's your outlook on the Philadelphia 76ers? Because they have plenty of drama with Ben Simmons demanding a trade, whatever you want to call it, and them having a hard line stance, and then he just shows up, and it's so strange there. What's your expectation for them coming into this year?
I really enjoyed last year betting on the 76ers. I would take them. I made a good amount of money betting on them at the half-point spreads. They were like first half cover kings, and then near the second half or near the end of the game, they always struggled to close out the spread. But I was a huge fan of the 76ers, and it's kind of disappointing to see what Ben Simmons has done to the organization. Missing that open layup back in their playoffs when they could have advanced to the finals and passing it off just because he had a horrible shooting percentage. Kind of is disappointing to see a professional like that act the way he did. I mean, he hasn't really cemented himself as one of the greats. So in my opinion, I don't think he should be doing what he's doing. But so it goes in 2 circumstances, two stories, I would say. If they trade Ben Simmons, they're probably going to get a qualified shooter that could support Joel Embiid. But if they have to hold on to Ben Simmons, then it's kind of going to be a hole in the floor, I would say, because I don't see Ben Simmons suiting up for the 76ers again. So I'd put them, instead of being top 2 in the East, I'd drop them down to mid-table, maybe 4, 5, or 6, just given their current situation. Joel Embiid, one of my favorite players. The guy's a superstar. But then you have Danny Green, Tobias Harris. Tobias Harris is good, but he doesn't have what it takes to lead the team to be at first place in the Eastern Conference. So I would kind of reduce their value and bring them lower to the table of the Eastern Conference. So 4th to 6th position.
I like it. We're joined here by Nick from the dailystakes.com, proud new member of the Donno Daily family here on 5 Reasons Sports. So, we've been craving this. We're going to be talking, by the way, for the rest of the show, a lot of Heat basketball. I vented my frustrations on the Dolphins for the early part. We're going to be talking more NBA. Allana Tachauer is going to join us a little bit later on. She's awesome. So, looking ahead to Thursday night, that's when the Heat open up their regular season. Home against the Milwaukee Bucks. Not surprising that the Heat are slight underdogs in this one, given they're going up against the champs. It's the Heat plus 1.5 against Milwaukee, favored at minus 1.5. Any early thoughts on that game for Thursday nights where people should be thinking about putting their money on that?
For that game, I think I would wait to the end of Tuesday when you got the Bucks versus the Nets. See what the outcome is of that match. Just based on this right now at this very moment, without even looking at it, I'd probably lean towards the Bucks in the first matchup, only because the Bucks are pretty much the same team as they were when they won the championship, plus the addition of Grayson Allen on the 3-point perimeter shooting. And then I don't know if you guys have been watching Giannis's offseason, but have you seen his new jumper in the preseason?
Oh my God.
That's a scary sight.
It is.
So just until the Miami Heat start to get their footing with their new players, Kyle Lowry, PJ Tucker, Markieff Morris, once you throw these guys into the mix and they have a little more games under their belt, then they'll be able to compete in the Eastern Conference a lot heavier than they could at the moment. But I'm going to have to lean towards the Milwaukee Bucks at the minus 1.5 point spread.
Fair enough, man, and we're objective on this show now, and I'm going to let you say it because usually whatever I say, whether it's Heat or Bucks, people will usually just bet the opposite and they'll usually win. So I'll let Nick handle the prediction for that one. We'll talk about it more, of course, leading up to Thursday's game. But yeah, I mentioned we're so happy to have you guys, and I've had a chance to meet you and Dylan, your partner in this business at the Daily Stakes, and I'm really excited and really happy for what you guys are doing. So let people know what they can expect when they sign up at the Daily Stakes. I mentioned, I think the best deal is the all sports plan, $29.99 a month, and people can cancel at any time. Like, you're not locked in for like 10 years and your firstborn or anything like that. The all sports plan is great. You can pick one league, which is good for some people, because some people, maybe they want to bet on the NBA. They don't care about the NFL, or vice versa. I know there's a lot of people who love betting football, not much else. $14.99 a month, or you can start a trial for the all sports plan for 99 cents, which is a great way to kind of ease into it. Well, what can people expect? Like, well, what do they see and what do they get when they sign up at the Daily Stakes?
So for a given day, we release model projections and statistics for every single game on the slate.
That is so good.
So if there's it's absolutely fantastic. If I wish this service was around when I was sports betting when I was younger, it would have definitely helped me, because I used to base it on gut. And, when you base the sports best decision off gut, it doesn't always go as you imagine. But essentially we give bettors, casual fans, access to information that they wouldn't normally be able to find elsewhere or in the same section. So we give you access to line movement. You're able to see what the opening odds are for the game, what the best odds are at the moment when you access the dashboard. We also give you an indication where the public money and percentage is going, so it could show where the sharps are at, how much money is flowing into one side. Those are kind of key factors when you're sports betting. We also give you access to key bet trend tracker, so season trends, hot trends, and cold trends for both teams on that particular matchup, player stats to watch, and weather factor if it's a determinant, so in MLB and the NFL. And then we give you our own proprietary model projections on the money line, the point spread, and the over-unders. And each model projection comes with a confidence rating of 1 to 5, 5 being the highest projection. And there's always a summary or an explanation as to the logic behind it, backed by analytics. And to be honest, not to be biased, the MLB one as well. I know we got Game 3 tonight between with the Red Sox. And the MLB model has been performing exceptionally well. You guys can check it out on the track record page, but it's literally been, I would say, 10 out of 11 wins in the postseason.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Man, that is so good. And like Brooklyn Rob points out, Me, I'm the mush. I base it all on my gut. No analytics for me. That's why you get the straight facts there from Nick and from Dylan. We're going to talk to at certain points throughout the season as well. Nick, I cannot thank you enough, man. And everybody should check it out. TheDailySteaks.com. 99 cents for a free trial. Well, not free, a 99-cent trial, basically free. You got nothing to lose there. And check out the track record page. Thank you so much, man. I'll talk to you again soon. Good luck tonight on Monday Night Football, and great luck in the MLB postseason.
Thank you, Alex. I'm going to stay tuned to watch how the Heat perform on Thursday.
Ooh, I can't wait, man. Oh, I need this so badly. And I really need a win. So awesome job there, Nick from TheDailySteaks.com. You guys want to make sure you sign up. We're going to be joined in a little bit by Allana Tachauer, who I'm sure she's like a kid in a candy store. You talk about the excitement level, her excitement level for the Miami Heat regular season. Good afternoon, G.A. Canes fan. Good afternoon, David and Brooklyn Rob. Good afternoon, Marcus Robinson. Good afternoon. I'm going to try to throw PRNT. Good afternoon to you, to everyone else who's in the chat. I'm too lazy to scroll up too far at this very moment. So listen, guys, between what happened to my Miami Dolphins yesterday, what happened to my Miami Hurricanes on Saturday, what happened to my beloved Inter Milan on Saturday, to Inter Miami, I've just had to kind of take a little time away for the last 12 hours or so. I'm thinking of starting that Squid Game show, but then, my wife wants to watch it with me, so she wants me to wait for her. Oh, it can get frustrating sometimes. Now, this is never frustrating because this is the segment that brings a smile to my face, because typically on Mondays, we're talking about Dolphins L's and Canes L's. The Miami Heat had a 5-1 preseason. They're going to have a 98-0 regular season and playoffs coming up. So it's all good in the Miami Heat neighborhood. Allana Tachauer here from the 5 Reasons Sports Network. And not only does she cover the Heat for 5 Reasons, she also covers the Bulls for Clutch Points. So is this going to be, Allana, is this going to be the busiest NBA season of your life? Because I know you watch all the games anyway, but you're covering 2 different teams now. So you're going to have like 2 arms working independently, like typing on 2 different computers at the same time. How are you?
Yeah, it's funny. I actually just came off another live stream talking about the Bulls, and I managed to sneak some Heat talk in there. So my plan is really to just infiltrate both sides. But I feel like we've gone over this before. I'm a Heat fan. I support my city. The Bulls are looking good, but like my heart is with the Heat through and through. So I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
How did you become a Heat fan, by the way? And you're welcome, by the way. Thank you for coming on. But how did you become a Heat fan in the first place?
It was the weirdest thing. When I was in like middle school, now I'm aging myself, but I only followed 2 college players, Wade and Melo. I literally was like, I was set that I was going to name my son Melo. I don't know where this came from. I was like in 5th grade, but I followed Wade at Marquette, and then obviously, in Miami. And then, to be quite frank, the Bulls organization turned out to be dumpster fire in 2012, 2013. So I just kind of moved on over, and I've been here ever since.
Yeah, no, it's a good call. And listen, basing your decision on a greatly run organization, as a South Floridian, I'm glad we have at least one of those. I think the Florida Panthers could be moving in that direction as well, but the Miami Heat have been a very well-run organization really since Pat Riley arrived. And some might even argue before that, but since Riley arrived in 1995, it's been one of the best organizations in town. Heat just wrapped up their preseason, Allana, 5-1, including, the most recent victory in the dress rehearsal heading into the season, which I think was important, and it was nice to see. Is there anything you learned about this team during the preseason? Maybe a certain player that you're like, wow, I feel even better, or maybe even worse, depending on who we're talking about that player than I did heading into preseason?
Yeah, I don't know if it was just me, but I didn't realize how crazy our pace would be.
Oh my God.
And I don't think it's anything that's going to go away. Obviously, on back-to-backs or kind of down the stretch, things are going to be slower. But Kyle, he even has Jimmy saying like, I don't know if I can keep up with him. And for Jimmy to say that is saying a lot. So I don't know. I'm really excited about that. The negative side of that, KZ, I just don't know what to do with him anymore. And it's not a personal thing. I hope he gets better, but he just looks lost. He doesn't look like he's improved at all. And I don't know what's going to happen, because I thought maybe during preseason we would see, a glimpse of hope, but I haven't seen that personally.
Yeah, same here. That's the one that that really bums me out. Now, I was talking about this a few minutes ago. The Heat open up the regular season on Thursday, which is awesome. You have a really tough test to open things up, but I guess why not? Why not play the best right off the bat? So, what are you expecting from Milwaukee? It's going to be at FTX Arena on Thursday. Heat go up against the champs, Giannis Antetokounmpo and company. What has to happen for the Heat to start 1-0?
They have to want it more, to be honest. And I think they do. I think they really hated the way that they went out last year, especially against the Bucks. So I don't know. I feel like we are coming out of preseason looking really good. The team is hungry. Jimmy definitely has a chip on his shoulder against Milwaukee. So I'm not worried, but I am excited. And I think that's a great way to start off the season.
True or false? And I ask you this because I know Ethan Skolnick at some point was tweeting about this during the preseason. Maybe a little bit reactionary, but also it was kind of hard to argue.
Reactionary? No way.
True or false? Tyler Hero will be the Miami Heat's highest scorer this year.
I'm still going false on that one. I think he's going to do much better. I think he will be, very productive for us, but I'm looking more at like 16 to 18 points, not necessarily what he provided in preseason. I'm mostly saying that just because preseason, we didn't really get a good sense of what the rotations and the lineups are going to look like. Jimmy didn't play every game. Kyle wasn't playing his full minutes. Obviously, when Depot returns, that's going to look different. So I don't think he's going to be our highest scorer, but I think he'll be up there. And hey, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and I'm happy to be wrong.
Yeah, I would be happy to be wrong about something like that as well. There's no question about it. But I do think Tyler is going to have a really good year. And would you say that this team has any glaring weakness? Power rotation, maybe? Because certainly they definitely improved their defense with offseason moves. They clearly improved their pace with the addition of Kyle Lowry. So what do you look at and say this is going to be the Heat's biggest weakness this season?
If I had to pinpoint something, I would probably say size, and maybe with that rebounding. I don't think it's going to be as bad as people think, just because I do think that guys are going to understand that they need to step up and fill the void that way. I think, Kyle defensively is an upgrade too. But, I think Thursday is going to show a lot when you look at the Bucks, and that's kind of what you need to look at is who you need to go through, in my opinion, through the East. Giannis is Giannis, and they are just big guys in general. I think PJ's toughness helps that, but I am curious to see how our size is going to stack up.
Have anything you've seen, not only in preseason games, and I know you watch the Eastern Conference very closely, you cover two teams in the East. There's also been a lot of drama in the East. I mean, this Kyrie Irving stuff is crazy. Ben Simmons drama. Has anything that's happened throughout preseason on or off the court changed your opinion on, let's say, who the top 4 seeds are going to be in the East? Like, what do you think happens with Brooklyn, Philly?
Yeah, honestly, I think the Heat could sneak into second if things end up going the way that they're going in Brooklyn. I think it is helpful that they kind of put some boundaries on Kyrie so they're not necessarily stuck in limbo. But I don't think he's going to get the vaccine, and I feel like things are only going to get worse. And as for Philly, Ben Simmons might be back, but obviously things are still rocky there, and I don't see it turning into some sort of smooth sailing situation. So I kind of see the Bulls maybe lapping them a little bit. And I don't know. I think that, the East is going to be really interesting to watch because also the Hawks are one of those teams that I want them to do well, and I think they have the potential to, but I also think some of their success was circumstantial last year just because other teams were a little more tired and were dealing with more injuries, although they too had injury, issues of their own. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. But I think the Heat right now, I have them in 2 or 3.
I like it. By the way, are you superstitious at all when it comes to sports? Like, I'm pulling up this comment here from David, and David and Brooklyn Rob especially, they give me a hard time. We do talk a lot of sports betting on the show, and I'm very passionate about my teams. And every time I say something good about one of my teams, they come out and they shit the bed in their next game. Like, it always happens. So they refer to me as the mush. And David writes in, Donno, for old time's sake, just mush the Heat again. It's funny. If there's anybody powerful enough to make the Heat suffer this year, it's probably me because I'm really bullish and really high on the Heat. Are you superstitious at all, Alana? Because I tend to be very superstitious, and it's not just in betting. Like, because a lot of times I'm so superstitious, I don't bet on my teams. I'll just watch the games and try to enjoy, and I still feel like I give my teams bad luck.
Yeah, I did go through a little bit of a phase where I swear every time I wore Heat gear on game day, we lost. And so I just stopped doing that. I think that was like 2 or 3 seasons ago. But generally, I'm not. When it does come to betting, though, I learned my lesson quickly to just never put money on the Heat because I just get too into it. So I am Michael. I am not a curse. If anyone's a curse, it's Michael. He talked so high about Depot, and then 4 games in, boom.
That's right.
He's going to hear it from me later when we record tonight.
That is so true because, Michael and I, we used to be colleagues even previously at Onside Radio, and I used to have Michael on because he was the biggest, and we need to bring Michael on again, by the way. I don't know. It's been way too long since we brought Michael on, but I used to have him on to talk Victor Oladipo because I was really excited when they traded for him. And then, within those 4 games, I threw in the towel and I completely turned on Depot. But I blame, you're right, I blame Michael for that.
It
Michael
is totally Michael's fault. Yeah.
Yeah, it totally is. It totally is. Well, Alana, I'm so happy we could have you on today so soon before the NBA season. We're going to talk again next Monday. I don't know. The Heat play 2-3 games before then. We'll be talking about an undefeated Heat team again on Monday for sure. And when can people, we saw Michael in the chat. When can we see you and Michael and hear you guys again on the network? What do you have dropping this week?
Yeah, Michael and I are recording tonight. So a new episode will be live on Tuesday. And then I will not be there this week, but Clutch Corner is airing Wednesday. I have some other obligations that I need to attend to actually that have to do with the Bulls. So, but exciting stuff from the whole network. And I think that we're going to crush it this year.
I know you're going to crush it. I guarantee it. And I hope I didn't just mush you guys by saying that. But I appreciate your time as always. Enjoy the rest of your Monday.
Thank you. You too.
Awesome stuff. Oh, man. Manny has mutt could be word. I don't know what that means. I don't know why I pulled it up when I don't understand. Let me bring in Sean Stanley real quick. Sean, what was your take on the Dolphins poll that I posted on my Twitter before the show? And we have now 128 votes. Do the Dolphins need another rebuild? Blow it all up, stay the course, make strategic changes? What do you think Stephen Ross should do?
Well, I was a little off because I did vote stay the course, but I meant
come on.
Well, no, hear me out for a moment. I guess what I should have done was done strategical changes because I think what they need to do is start looking at who they need to trade off, start getting some. And again, not saying that it's great because you're going to build up the draft capital. It depends what you do in the draft as well. But I think Tua took a step, at least when you're looking at the quarterback position. He made others around him better yesterday. When you look at it, the line, there was no sacks. They got the ball out and made no sacks. Gesicki looked good except for, short routing some plays, depending on how you look at some of the routes that were ran there. But guys looked better with Tua on the field. I mean, again, judging that going off of Jacoby Brissett, not saying that's a high mark, but they looked better there. Defensively, again, going in when I saw the 2 corners out, you got to see Noah play, which for the good or the bad, I think you saw what you had there. I don't know what they expected with both their top corners out, their money makers. I don't know what that says either. Have they kind of said, we're injured, we're not playing, or is it another X move to where he's just kind of giving up on the team and just slowly is the cancer starting to build, I guess, in the locker room with the way that everything's going down? So I think you got to start making some strategic changes, whether it's start looking for X now. But again, with the way he's playing now, does he have that same leverage you had for X before the first 5 games of the season? So there's a lot going on right now with the Dolphins, and I don't know that any of it's good. And then the other thing is you get rid of the guys. Who do you bring in? Yeah. Who changes this right now? Unless somebody is let go that, there's nobody out there on the market that you're going to bring in that's going to be any better. You bring in another guy that hasn't had experience, and then who's going to want to work for him? And I just don't know if there is anything that you can do to build this back up.
Yeah, it's a really tough one, and I put out that poll without even having a strong answer for myself. Um, I know they're not going to do this. I kind of lean to blowing it all up, and the reason why I say that now, I know it's not going to happen because Stephen Ross just did that 3 years ago. He's in his 80s. I think he's going to be too impatient, because blowing it all up takes time, right? Because you knew when you did it 3 years ago, it was going to take at least 3 years. I think this is the year where you were expected to be a lot better than you are. Like last year, you were on scholarship. 2019, obviously, you were on scholarship. You were happy just to win 5 games that year. I think this is the year you expected significant strides, and you're actually worse than you were a year ago. The reason why I'm telling you why I would lean to blowing it up, they're not going to do this. I would lean to doing this is because how many players and coaches from the current core do I really think are untouchable? Like, honestly, like a handful of pieces. Like, I still think Xavier Howard is a great player. I wish he was more consistently available. I do think Jalen Waddle is already a great player and can be an incredible player. So that's
one that looked good with Tua in there as well.
So that's somebody I would obviously stick with. I'm not sold one way or another on Tua. Like I'll admit it. I'm not one of these freaking zombies that are either in the cult of Tua or just the Tua haters who won't give the kid a chance. I'm not either of those things. Like I'm still looking and saying the jury is still out. So I certainly don't think Tua is untouchable. I don't think anybody from that offensive line is untouchable. I don't think too many of their defensive players are untouchable. I mean, I like what Javon Holland is developing into. Not to say he's a finished product. And then you look at the staff. Do I think any of these coaches, any of the 55 offensive coordinators, the head coach, I'm no longer sold on, the defensive coordinator, the defensive staff, the general manager, now maybe the assistant GM, Allen, is the guy who should be running the show now, as we talked about with Alfredo. But it's like the reason why I would lean to saying, I think for the most part, there's obviously Mike Gesicki. I hope the Dolphins can find a way to keep him. There's obviously a handful of players that I really like. I'm not saying you get rid of everybody. I don't think it's really possible for an NFL franchise to get rid of everybody. It just doesn't work that way. But I'll tell you, man, I lean to blowing it up because I think the amount of players and or coaches and front office members who should be untouchable, I can count them all in one hand.
Yeah. So for you, the first 6 games totally destroyed everything that was built up over the last 2 years.
I'm leaning to that. Yeah, I'm leaning to that because this is basically, you're not mathematically out of the playoff hunt yet. It's probably going to happen within the next month. You're not mathematically out of it yet, but you've clearly taken a step back already from last year, and that wasn't supposed to happen this season. And I don't care that you played 3.5 games with a backup quarterback. You left plays on the field with poor coaching and poor execution that were even beyond what the quarterback was doing. You could have won a couple of those games. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers game, fine. You're probably not winning that game even with Tua, right? The Buccaneers game, you got shelled, you got blown out. Same thing with the Bills game, but you could have won the Indianapolis game and the Las Vegas game with better execution from players outside of the quarterback and better coaching decisions. So you threw up on yourself in those games. Obviously, in the Jaguars game, you did as well. So I'm not even going to use Jacoby Brissett starting 3 games and playing for the better part of 4 games as an excuse. Like I honestly, I think you could make an argument for blowing this up again for the second time in 3 years.
But let me ask you this: as Dolphin fans, could we go through this for the next 4 years?
I don't know.
Blow this up. It's not.
I don't know.
I mean, if they blow this up totally, you're starting.
Yeah.
From scratch, and you're going to have these 6 games that just happened are going to be what you're going to deal with for the year, and then you're going to get
right.
What it'll end up being is like the last 2 seasons. You'll get that like 0-6 start, and then they win, and you're like, oh, we're ahead of schedule again, and then they win. They're 11-6, and you're like, oh, we're going to get it next year, and then it'll be like, bloop, blow up the team again.
Yeah, you're right about that because like I thought for the most part, Dolphin fans were more patient with the first part of this rebuild than I expected, but I don't know if they could tolerate back-to-back rebuilds. You're right, because going back to 2019, the tank for Tua year, right? Where they ended up winning 5 games. But it's like a lot of people were like, you know what? I don't even care if they're losing. Some fans were even rooting for them to lose games, and they were really patient for a year. I don't know if you can do that again just 3 years later. I think you would literally lose fans. Like maybe you lost a few fans already, but you would literally have like a mass exodus of fans.
Yeah, but then in your, what would it be, the 22 draft, we lose our pick, right? Well, we don't lose our
Philly.
pick. We give it to Philly. The year after that, we have 2 first-round picks. So maybe there's some, if you're looking ahead so then why not give Flores and them another year?
Oh, no.
Knowing that, but for what are you going to, you're going to bring in a new head coach.
I see.
You have the San Francisco 49ers first pick. At least let him, again, this is not saying that the locker room gives up on them and everything, and there's, everything goes crazy for the rest of this year. If that happens, then of course you got to clean house. But I just don't see, you're going to bring in a new head coach, new GM, and you have nothing going next year's draft. You've already pretty much given that away.
That's actually a fair point on your part. Andres Davila writes in, Davilla maybe, and the Bills are already up and the Pats are coming. If we blow it all up, we'll be 4 years behind everybody.
And then somebody else put, who do we tank for anyways? I guess we tank for Corral.
Yeah, Golden Corral, baby.
There we go. We have the Golden Corral. There's no quarterback. And again, not saying that, but if you're not sold on Tua right now, I don't know that there's anything else going to get better this season. Honestly, I don't. I just, with this line, you saw him, at least him and Waddle had a connection. Him and Gesicki. Does Gesicki stick around? There's so many unknowns right now with this team that maybe the best thing to do is just blow it up and put us out of our misery.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, that'll do it for this episode. Huge thanks again to Allana Tachauer for joining us, Alfredo Arteaga, and Nick from the Daily Stakes. Guys, welcome the Daily Stakes here to the 5 Reasons Sports family and the Donno Daily family. They empower you with the same analytics used by both the sharps and the sports books. The Daily Stakes will change the way you bet on sports, and they'll change it for the positive. If you heard what Nick had to say, awesome. I encourage you guys to do their 99-cent trial. And there's a lot of action you can get within a week, right? When you're talking about the NHL in full swing, the NBA starts up this week, fast and furious. You're going to have games all week long starting tomorrow, coming into the next NFL weekend. There's a lot you can get with that 99-cent trial. So you can unlock an all sports trial for 7 days for just 99 cents. So you can see what the Daily Stakes is all about. I encourage you guys to check that out at thedailystakes.com. And then, hey, listen, you get the betting advice. This is perfect synergy here. Then you're looking for a place to place those wagers. Let me direct you to the official sports book of Donno Daily, BetUS.com, America's favorite sports book. So you're going to get that solid advice, and then you're going to bet that advice at BetUS.com. People, if you've never used an online sports book before, BetUS, first of all, they are the best of the bunch. So don't even waste your time with some of the other operations out there. But if you've never used an online sports book before, people have asked me because they find it hard to believe exactly what you get from BetUS.com. It is a full-service sports book, guys. These are not gimmicks. You're not locked into like only parlays. It's not one of these glorified fantasy things. This is a full-service sports book. If you've been to Las Vegas, or you've been down to the Bahamas and you've gone into one of the sports books, it's literally that, except it's on your computer, it's on your tablet, it's on your smartphone, which the portability, you cannot beat it. I have literally made bets where I'm on a long drive. I pull over to the side of the road to lock in a bet at BetUS.com on my phone, and it takes 30 seconds to do it, maybe less than that if you stay logged in at all times. I log in, then I go in and place the bet. It is so convenient, and they have odds on everything you can imagine. I bet a lot of European soccer at BetUS.com. I was betting the Olympics last summer. Obviously, the big players like the NFL, MLB playoffs going on, NBA regular season, NHL. You can find all of it, odds on everything at BetUS.com. And if you sign up with our code, first of all, it's a nice solid you can do for us because you sign up with our code. That's going to let them know they heard about it on Donno Daily. And you also get a sweet bonus. So you can't beat this. Sign up at BetUS with our code 5RSN125 and receive a 125% sign-up bonus. That's if you deposit with a credit card, which is really easy, or if you deposit with crypto, which is even easier if you're a crypto user. Obviously, you have a wallet. You deposit with crypto, you use our code, you get a 200% sign-up bonus. So if you deposit $100 worth of Bitcoin, they're going to give you $200 on top of your deposit in free play money. You deposit with a credit card, $100, they'll give you $125 of free play money on top of your deposit. It is so good. So use our promo code 5RSN125 and bet sports, casino, horses, pop culture, and more at betus.com. You bet, you win, you get paid. BetUS and the Quarterdeck Seafood Bar and Neighborhood Grill. Guys, make sure you join us out there. It's just a couple weeks away now. November 2nd, we're going to have a Miami Heat road game watch party at the Quarterdeck in Plantation, the Quarterdeck Sawgrass. So join us out there for the 2-for-1 happy hour, for the delicious seafood, the oysters, the Maine lobster, the sushi, the salads, the sandwiches and burgers. The baby back ribs are so tender and so flavorful. Join us out there at the Quarterdeck November 2nd. Don't even wait till November 2nd. Go out there for a college football Saturday and NFL Sunday. Have a great time. Enjoy the 5 for $15 ice cold buckets. You want to find the location nearest to you before you go, or peep their menu beforehand. Visit them at quarterdeckrestaurants.com. The Quarterdeck, come for the food, stay for the fun. Huge shout out to Sean Stanley and Manny Chang behind the scenes. These guys are kicking ass and taking names. Yeah, I was out of town for the latter part of last week, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. We didn't have shows. After seeing what my teams did over the weekend, I thought about just not coming back. But then I realized, you know what? I need to live my life, and I need to do my shows. The world needs my content. At least I hope you guys do. We'll talk to you again tomorrow, 3 p.m. live here on Donno Daily on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Ciao.